So let's talk about my main issues when it comes to the Traxxas Fortec 2.0. As far as the car itself goes, it's a very, very solid car. Plastic chassis, which I love. Modular, you can pull everything off with a couple of screws, but it's extremely heavy for what it is. I mean, this thing, now obviously I have a huge battery in this and we'll cover that later, but this car is extremely heavy for what it is. Part of the lure for me on the 10th scale cars was the fact that they're lightweight and they don't take a lot of power. The issue, in my opinion, that you start running into with the infractions and all these other heavy cars, it takes a lot of power to move something heavy. That's why you have to run 6S, 8S, and things like that with low kV motors with a lot of gearing to make these things run high speeds. On a 10th scale car, you don't really have to do that. You can run really cheap electronics, and as long as you've got your downforce correctly and your body doesn't give way on you, you should be able to achieve some really high speeds. You know, maybe not to the level of some of the bigger cars for sure, but you can definitely get 115, 120 mile an hour out of a very lightweight, cheap car. Being that this car is so heavy, 3S is just really not enough. You have to go to Mod 1 gearing, which we are going to do. I'm going to experiment with the Mod 1 gearing for you guys, and we're going to run this motor. But for now, this lower kV motor is what you're going to want on a heavier car. You can gear that motor better than you can put a high kV motor in one of these heavy cars and then try to gear it down. It just doesn't have the torque, and that's what you gain from these bigger, lower kV motors. The other thing is it catches rocks like you would not believe. Under here, you can see the steering links. It doesn't take but a little pebble to get caught in right there. So we'll use this nut as an example. Now look, your steering's locked up. So you get this, you get a rock in there, and now your steering won't work. You're probably thinking, well, how often are you actually going to get a rock in there? Well, pretty often, believe it or not. I was surprised by that. Here's the problem. If you get a rock in it and you're going 70 mile an hour and you can't steer it, that's a problem, right? The other thing that I've experienced with my particular car is the fact that I believe it's so heavy. Now, the car rolls really good, but the fact that it's so heavy, this motor heats up pretty quick. It's on 3S with the stock 3500 motor. Honestly, I know those things seem simple. It's heavy, it requires a lot of power, and you get rocks and stuff all in this thing. I know that doesn't seem like a big issue, but it is to me. You get to the point where you have so much weight in this thing that, to be honest with you, you really should have just went with something like the infraction. As a matter of fact, let me run inside. I'll grab the infraction for reference purposes, and we may even go ahead and weigh these things. We'll see what the difference is. All right, we got the infraction out here. There again, 3S model. And we're going to compare the weight and the size of these two vehicles. Now, when you get them side by side, you can definitely tell a difference. One is massively bigger than the other. But let's see how much of a difference there is on weight. So there you go, 6 pounds, 4 pounds, 4 pounds. So yes, the infraction is obviously heavier, but with only 2 pounds of difference, right? Is it worth going down to a 10th scale? Look at the ground clearance. Look at the difference here. Look at this. Look at that. Although this is a pretty solid chassis, if I was going to do it again, I'd probably go to the Sport 3 Flux from HPI instead of this. Just because, as you see now, everybody's going to this very thick plastic modular design. Have a bunch of honeycomb holes where everything can just get caught up in there. See, same thing on the Traxxas. I can guarantee you that my car before this, my Secura XI Sport, was at least, at bare minimum, 1.5 pounds lighter than this. I understand we have a big battery. Still and yet, this is just a heavy car. When I picked it up out of the box, I realized, oh crap, this thing is heavy. More weight requires more power and typically a lower kV motor. You will burn up a high kV motor if you're trying to run it in a heavy vehicle, unless you really gear it down, and then why are you doing that? In a light car, you can use whatever you want to. High kV, low kV, doesn't really matter. Now this car is currently set up for the Porsche body, but I do want to show you my speed run body. It sits a lot lower than this whenever we run it. But this thing so far has worked out really good. The car seems super stable. And as you can see underneath, we have fiberglassed all the weak points. See the difference there and there. Now, the problem with fiberglassing is when you hit something pretty hard, you're gonna rip all that off. So you better hope you don't hit anything, but as long as you don't, you should be good to go. So I will show you this body on the car though while we're right here. I did the Dawn power wash technique on it. It's really cool, but this is a very soft body and would not be good for speed runs. But it's a cool body to sit on the shelf, something like that. But we will go ahead and take this car out and do a quick run with it, and I'll give you my final thoughts on the Traxxas Fortec. All right, so we got the Fortec out here. We're gonna run this thing, see what we can get mile an hour out of it. It has the optional gearing that comes in the box with it. And we also brought the infraction, but the battery was dead. That's usually how it goes. So we'll do a comparison later on of these two. Well, as long as we don't crash this one too bad today, I anticipate, I'm hoping for 65 to 67 out of this car. It does have the high voltage battery in it, so we'll see. I'm gonna try to keep this thing straight. We're gonna ease into it a few times and we'll see how this goes. Yep. What's your guess?
66.
Ooh.
That didn't look very fast.
I say 64. That was about it. That sucks, man. That's with a high voltage battery too. 66. Damn. Okay. We're getting there. So I do want to say this. Before we had like a 5300 milliamp battery. I can't remember which one it was. The best I could get out of it was 64. We already got 66 for the day on the high voltage. So there is a difference. I'm actually expecting, I said 67 before we left, so I would expect to see 67 out of this thing before the day is over with. So we're gonna give it a couple more runs. The car is super stable though. I gotta admit that. Andrew, you've been out here a lot with these cars. The weight does help you keep this car planted, so I will say that. Let's try it one more time. Definitely wants to drift. I think it's because of the weight of that battery. I've got the other side shinned up, but all right, come on. 67.
We got a pretty decent crosswind.
Yeah, 67. Come on.
66 again.
I'm telling you, we're gonna get it. We're gonna get 67. I don't.
Just keep hitting different buttons on the telephone until it goes faster. Probably been 5 years or so since that car was running.
All right, here we go. 67. Come on. And now it's gonna freeze up. That's because it was 70, man.
Yeah, that's it. It was going too fast.
Are you freaking kidding me? I knew it. I knew it had an M67. All right, well. All right, so we're gonna wrap this up. Obviously, this is a new channel, so I'm gonna bring you some content like this. I'm gonna give you more of my thoughts and opinions on things because we've been running RC cars for years, man, as many other channels have as well. But I've got some different thoughts and things like that I'm gonna share with you guys. We'll talk about bodies, what works, what doesn't, what I have found out over the years. The biggest thing with RC cars, especially speed run cars, is trying to make them go straight. There's a few things that I've learned over the years, some techniques that are a little unorthodox, but I will share them with you guys. Either way, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this video up. And as always, thanks for watching.